Order. End of the ministerial statement. The clerk will now proceed to read the orders of the day.
Item 1. Resumption of debate on the ministerial statement on support measures for Phase 2 Heightened Alert and Phase 3 Heightened Alert.
The question is that the ministerial statement made by the Minister for Finance on support measures for Phase 2 Heightened Alert and Phase 3 Heightened Alert be considered by Parliament. As the House has decided to jointly take this motion and the next motion on support measures for Phase 2 Heightened Alert, I'll put the question on the next motion to the House. The question is that the ministerial statement made by the Minister for Finance on support measures for Phase 2 Heightened Alert be considered by Parliament. In accordance with the decision of this House to have a simultaneous debate on both motions, I will now call on members to make their speeches. Members are allowed to consider both motions in a single speech. Mr. Liang Eng Hwa.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, this latest reversion to Phase 2 Heightened Alert has caught many businesses by surprise. Like what Minister Wong has said yesterday, many in the F&B and wholesale trade sectors felt a lot more struggling this time around, more shaken as well. Businesses and the public at large have expected restrictions to be further relaxed as we approach the major milestone where at least 2/3 of our populations will be fully vaccinated in August. It was not to be, following the outbreaks at KTV launches and the Jurong Fishery Port. Those in the F&B and retail sectors find this series of roller coaster measures disruptive and added stresses to their already dire finances and also their operations. Those supporting the F&B sectors are also feeling the knock-on effects as they saw sudden drop in their orders. These latest heightened measures happen despite the country reaching higher vaccination rate among our populations of now greater than 50%, better testing capacity, enhanced contact tracing capabilities, and our healthcare system not under significant stress. Which is why the F&B operators will have hoped for a more calibrated measures such as limiting in-dining to those who are fully vaccinated and backed by the rapid ring-fencing capabilities that we now have. But I'm heartened that the Finance Minister and the MTI Minister have heard the concern raised by the F&B businesses and taken in their feedback. The 2 doses of support measures to enhance the JSS, extending rental relief, and providing targeted support for the local delivery services, taxi drivers, hawkers, and market stallholders go some way to help those impacted by the new restrictions. Of course, businesses would prefer to have their top line back again, have their businesses and sales back again to earn their keeps. So I want to speak up for another less visible group of businesses that are impacted by the heightened measures. These are the companies that support the F&B and retail sector, such as the wholesale trades, the logistics, the distributors, and suppliers to the F&B sectors. They felt neglected in the latest round of support measures, like the GSS and the rental reduction assistance. They suffered from both supply side and demand side pressures. For example, on the supply side, the cost of storage spaces has not come down, while the air and freight costs have risen. On the demand side, temporarily stop of the in-dining has significantly reduced orders. These businesses also hire a high number of Singaporean workers, and many are already on 4-day work week. These supporting sectors function in tandem with the F&B businesses, and whenever the F&B sectors enter into a lockdown, they are also directly impacted. And this time around, some are contemplating to release workers with these restrictions. So I hope that the Finance Minister can consider extending the GSS to those businesses that directly support the F&B sector as well. So another group of businesses that are also deeply impacted by the latest measures are those in the MICE sectors and the event organizing companies. With tightened safe management measures, many events and activities are either cancelled, postponed, or downsized. Corporate MICE events, community events, schools regular events, graduations, wedding, anniversary celebration have all either swing into virtual format or simply cancelled. In my constituency, I actually have to cancel some events due to the heightened measures as well. So many event organizers have actually helped up hope that the gradual opening up in the months ahead could trickle in activities that can help bring in some cash flows that minimally pay for the lights, the rentals, the salaries. Many of the event companies are quality local talents capable of hosting world-class events. And what they need are both a minimum base load of activities as well as some support measures from the government to keep going and to preserve their capabilities. So I'm glad that in the latest support measures announced on 23rd July, the government has added MICE organizers under the tourism category to receive 40% of the JSS. Can I clarify with the Minister if this 40% GSS support would also include domestic event organizers, such as those that organize events in schools, the IHLs, the grassroots, corporate events, and so on? So I welcome the reopening roadmap sketched up by the MTF ministers yesterday. It gave the businesses a good level of confidence and some predictability as to how to plan ahead and how to live with endemic COVID-19. And as was alluded to at yesterday's ministerial statement by Minister Wong, where even with high vaccination rate among our population, we can still expect occasional sharp rises in cases, such as due to new variants. For example, when we resume business and leisure travels, we may from time to time experience imported infiltration that can potentially lead to a big cluster. So heightened measures may still be necessary from time to time, even when we achieve herd immunity. And that has to be featured in the contingency planning for our businesses going forward. And if the situation is severe, such as where businesses and livelihoods are seriously affected, the government may again need to step in with fresh dosage of direct support measures. And this is something that businesses feel comforted about because the government will always be there to help when we are faced with serious situations. So the current approach, when the government intervenes to help, is by way of tabling additional supplementary supply bills in Parliament each time the government injects new spending and reallocate expenditures. Here, I would like to ask the Finance Minister if he could instead consider setting aside funding to establish pandemic economic response funds or a program so that the government will have the ready funding to provide timely and direct reliefs to some small businesses, to self-employed persons or workers impacted by the sudden COVID-related tightened measures, rather than having to come back again to the Parliament for additional supplementary bills. So as the pandemic drags on, even during the endemic phase, our expenditures on healthcare and non-healthcare items as well, like social and economic support, are likely to continue rising. On the other hand, operating revenues remains uncertain as it really hinges on the state of the economy, which in turn depends on how the pandemic situations develop and how countries around the world respond to the crisis and whether they have stabilized their own domestic situations. For this $2 billion of additional support measures, we are counting on pockets of fiscal spaces, such as delays in the construction projects, one-off capitalization of the 2 single infrastructure items, and the postponement of school activities to help foot the bill. Even the $200 million of buffer is now being used up for this latest package. I can imagine that the availability of such unutilized expenditures for reallocations would increasingly be fewer and it will be increasingly more challenging to squeeze out the next drop of additional funding from the reallocations. So can I ask the Finance Minister if there are plans to review the entire developmental expenditures of the government, and whether we need to reprioritize the timeline given the COVID-19 environment so as to free up more contingency funding. So in the latest revised estimate, as at 5th of July 2021, I noted that in Annex E-1 that the NRIC has actually increased to $19.6 billion compared to FY 2020 where it was $18.4 billion. In FY 2019, the NRIC was $17.04 billion. I'm sure this additional NRIC will be welcome and helpful to the Finance Minister as he juggle and balance a very delicate and challenging fiscal situations. I believe this is the largest NIRC ever, thanks to the steady good performance of our investment agency and also our prudent approach of accumulating and compounding the financial reserves over the decades. Over the last 1 week or so, I am also happy to read reports of improved performance by Temasek and GIC amidst a more volatile global market environment. Notwithstanding, we have to expect markets and asset valuations to constantly be fluctuating around, and hence this sound and prudent way of computing the NIRC by smoothing out the expected investment returns over a long period is necessary to ensure steady and predictable net investment returns contribution for purpose of budgets and cash flow planning. In the 5th July 2021 revised estimates, I have also noted a new line item in the summary of the fiscal summary of the fiscal position, which is the debt servicing cost item. With more infrastructure assets being funded by SINGA in the years ahead, we can expect the debt servicing cost to also rise over time, adding new variables to the equation in how we balance the annual budgets. So our strong finances continue to be the powerful ammunition to fight the pandemic and to cushion its impact on our people and businesses. We will spend more, for sure, whether for COVID-19 or to take care of the well-being of people, whether it's for our security, for our economy, for our environment, or necessarily to also invest into our future. I cannot envisage a situation where we will spend less into the future. So cutting costs to balance our budget would increasingly not be a palatable option. I'm sure members in this House will agree. So we have to keep finding ways to grow our revenues and not lose sight on our core fundamentals that underpin economic growth, like always staying ahead of the curve, staying competitive, and staying open. That is the only way we can build a Singapore that can last. So with that, I support the Supplementary Supply Bill.